Hello everyone, this is part 41 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Hi Tar, chirped Naruto as he popped down out of a tree and a few inches away from her face. Eep. Hinata had been with her team that morning and they had just finished up the training. Seeing as Hinata and Shino had been given the next 2 weeks off, Kiba got lucky and the entire Team 8 was given the same. Despite 2 of the members of Team 8 being Chunin, they would still remain an intact squad under their Jonin sensei until every member of the squad was promoted to Chunin and they had spent 5 years under their sensei's guidance. However, it was rare that this would occur as most genin don't even take the Chunin exams until they are at least 15 years in age, putting them under their sensei's instruction for 4 years, and the average age of promotion through the Chunin exams was 18 years of age. Once every few years, a highly skilled genin would come along and make Chunin before at a young age. However, this was just ridiculous. In this one group alone, 9 out of 14 had made the rank of Chunin before most would even attempt to take the exam, and from the looks of things, the remaining 5 members had a strong chance at making Chunin within the next round or 2 of exams. 14 genin making Chunin before the age of 15 was just unheard of. However, that only went to support the assumption that this really was a special group of ninja coming up. Hey Hinata, want to go grab some ramen? Asked Naruto with a big grin plastered on his face. Is that all you ever think about? Ramen, joked Kiba. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? Replied Naruto. Nice jacket Shino. Shino was the only member of Team 8 to be wearing their flak jacket right now. Hiashi had taken Hinata's and hung it as sort of a trophy in the clan meeting hall, where the elders would spend a lot of their time plotting. Thank you, replied Shino. I would say the same, but yours seems a bit too big. How did you get one? I thought Hokage-sama wasn't going to be giving you one until you got back. Asked Kiba. Oh, this isn't mine. Iruka-sensei let me borrow it for a few days, replied Naruto. ARF. Yeah, rub it in my face, will ya? Said Kiba to Akamaru. Akamaru had told Kiba that the scent on the jacket wasn't Naruto's, but most likely Iruka's. Akamaru figured that Naruto must have borrowed it. So what do you say? Ramen? Asked Naruto. Hinata smiled and nodded as the two took off. Man, there goes another team lunch. Oi Shino, you up for lunch? Asked Kiba. Thank you for the offer, but I must decline. Fu has accepted my clan's invitation to live with us, so I must be there to ensure everything goes smoothly for her, said Shino before he took off as well. Looks like it's just you and me, buddy, said Kiba. Naruto and Hinata had finished their ramen. After all their times getting ramen together, Naruto could tell that Hinata's favorite by far was the miso ramen. Afterwards, Naruto was dragging Hinata somewhere. Naruto, where are we going? Asked Hinata. I wanted to go over to Rikinu and Satanora's and see if we could get a reservation there before I left, said Naruto. Instantly, Hinata realized what Naruto was talking about. Rikinu and Satanora Kamiri were the owners and head chefs at the Flaming Leaf Inn, the place where the two of them had their first date and one of the very few restaurants that Naruto had actually been allowed to eat at. She figured Naruto wanted to do one more date there as well. Boom! Was heard as Naruto and Hinata approached the restaurant. They watched in horror as the very building where they had their first date was engulfed in the explosion and leveled to the ground in mere seconds. Standing a few meters in front of them were Rikinu and Satanora. What's the matter, honey? Asked Rikinu. Nothing, cried Satanora. It's just that building has so many fond memories. I remember the day when we first opened in there. I'm going to miss that old building. Excuse me, said Hinata, walking up to the older couple. Ah, Hyuga-san, Uzumaki-san. It's nice to see you on this fine day, and congratulations on your exam, said Satanora, completely regaining his composure in an instant. Naruto was kind of at a loss of words due to Satanora's immediate 180. What happened here? We were on our way to see if we could make a reservation before I leave on my trip, and well, all we see is your restaurant being destroyed. Satanora began to tear up again. No. Why did you have to leave us like that? Why? Everyone's sweat dropped at the head chef's antics. Don't mind him, spoke Rikinu. We are just going through a bit of remodeling. You see, our son just got back from a long business trip to gather new and exciting ideas for our restaurant. I mean, sure, we were doing great with what he had, but all the upper class dining was starting to get a little boring. We wanted to bring some fresh life back into the place, and thankfully our son, Kazuki, found just that. Really? So what sort of ideas did he find on his trip, and where did he go? Asked Naruto. Well, he was gone for a few years traveling to a continent that is far west of here. There, he managed to pick up a lot of interesting recipes, and he told us about these places called dance and dinner clubs. I'm sure that's something a young couple like yourself would have an absolute blast. Said Rikinu. You know, the two of you here for a delicious meal, and afterwards, you can dance the night away in each other's arms. Hinata's eyes lit up at the prospect of the new restaurant. Oh my, me dancing with Naruto, eep. Thought Hinata while letting an eep sneak out. When she was young, her mother had taught her how to dance a little and she loved it. Now, the prospect of dancing with the one she loved had her on the verge of fainting at the idea. Naruto, on the other hand, was sweating on the inside. Dance. I have no clue how to dance. Oh, this trip just keeps getting better and better, thought a certain white-haired man who should have better things to do than spy on his apprentice. Naruto looked towards Hinata, trying to gauge her reaction, and from the looks of things, he was going to have to learn how to dance somehow. About a month ago, we did sort of a week trial to gauge if this idea was going to be successful, and everyone loved it, said Rikinu. We also learned that if we are going to implement it, then we will need to expand the restaurant, so we are going through renovations to practically double the seating capacity and add a stage and dance floor. Also, some of the newer Western recipes that we are going to add require a few small changes to the kitchen. So how long are you going to be gone? 3 years, replied Naruto, dampening Hinata's mood. Oh wow, that's some time. Well, we'll be up and running for sure when you return. Stop by when you return and we'll set you up with a reservation for the two of you, said Rikinu. Said Naruto, feeling a tug on his shirt sleeve. Please, begged Hinata, trying to look as cute as possible, which honestly was not necessary as she could have gotten Naruto without doing so, but a little extra never hurt. Hey, okay, we'll come here when I get back, I promise. It's just, well, said Naruto nervously. Everyone looked at the blonde questioningly. I kind of don't know how to dance. What? Don't know how to dance? How do you expect to sweep the ladies off their feet if you can't dance? Please tell me that's not, thought Naruto. Don't worry kid, I'll teach you how to dance. Just leave it up to the one and only Jiraiya to whip you into something the ladies absolutely cannot resist. Just Kami now, please, thought Naruto. That can be arranged, joked Kurama. Oh, he was going to get quite a show watching his vessel struggle over the next 3 years. Sakura and Sasuke had remained at the training ground after a quick lunch. To say that she was ecstatic that Sasuke had asked her to the festival would be an understatement. Sakura had vowed never to give any sort of fangirlish scream, but after she left Sasuke's hospital room after he asked her, she simply couldn't help herself. This one moment had told Sakura exactly what she had been wanting to know. Sasuke had in fact begun to develop feeling for her. However, despite this huge victory for her, she knew she couldn't stop to rest. She knew she had to continue to hone her shinobi skills, not because doing so is what got Sasuke to notice her in the first place, but because of what she would have to face in the future. Both Naruto and Sasuke would eventually be confronted by powerful enemies, and there was no way she was going to let them face everything alone. Not to mention, she was really beginning to enjoy shinobi life and learning to be a med-nin. The 3 members of Team 7 had gathered in the morning for a little bit of training, even though Kakashi had not designated a meeting time and had pretty much disbanded the team again until it reconvenes in 3 years. Still, Sakura found that actually training with Sasuke was getting kind of fun. Naruto was over against one of the trees, looking over a rather large scroll, most likely one of those Uzumaki ceiling scrolls of his. Needless to say, it was still weird to see Naruto study like that. Sasuke was simply doing some weapons exercises as he was still ordered to take it easy for another day or two. Sakura had joined him and their practice turned into more of a game between the two of them. While he would aim his shuriken at the target, Sakura would attempt to thread her senbon through the holes in the shuriken. So far, she was actually doing fairly well, about 60% accuracy, which was actually very good. Haku had maybe a 75% accuracy and the senbon was his specialty, and Sasuke couldn't even get 30% without his Sharingan. After probably the first few throws, Sasuke began to realize what Sakura was doing and started to play along, giving her different combinations and formations of shuriken to deal with. By the time lunch rolled around, Naruto had taken off. Sakura figured he went to go and find Hinata, which was fine as it now gave her some time alone with Sasuke for their lunch, that is until they heard a shriek that sent shivers down both of their spines. "Oh Sasuke! Come out Sasuke!" squealed a girl by the name of Amy. She was one of the few Sasuke fangirls who remained in the ninja program after failing the True Genin test. Afterwards, she was sent back to remedial classes where she apparently managed to pass because she had her leaf forehead protector. Sasuke and Sakura both groaned as the bubbly fangirl hopped out of the bushes. She had long brown hair that extended to the middle of her back. Even though Naruto had let the long hair secret slip to a few of his friends, a majority of the fangirls still thought it was Sasuke who liked girls with long hair when in reality it was Naruto. Perhaps I should say something to them about that, thought Sakura. Then all the fangirls would immediately shave their heads. That'd be so hilarious, exclaimed inner Sakura. Sakura was surprised a bit. She hadn't heard from her inner self in quite some time, but the mental image created by inner Sakura was just too funny to resist. Now she was actually tempted to do such. Sasuke got up and was about to walk away before Amy called out. "So Sasuke, you know there's this festival coming up tomorrow and I still don't have anyone to go with. So how about you and I?" "Oh hell no. He's mine," thought both Sakura and inner Sakura at the same time. "No," replied Sasuke in a cold tone to his fangirl. "But you and I would make the perfect couple. Just think you winning me prizes at the games and then we share some festival goodies while you feed me, oh and then the fireworks at the end," dreamed Amy. "I can just see it now. You and I cuddling on a hill, laced with grass and flowers as the fireworks explode in the distance, but then out of the corners of our eyes, we catch each other's gaze and we, eek." Sakura was just about at the point where she would K this girl. She was doing the best to restrain herself, but if Amy went any further, then she would most likely put the girl out of her misery. "Go away, you're annoying," said Sasuke with a cold harsh tone towards Amy. "But Sasuke," pleaded Amy. "Can't you see I need to get back to training?" replied Sasuke. Sakura was beginning to remember that attitude of Sasuke's. It was the same attitude he had when they were first put on Team 7 and she had been asking pretty much the same things out of him. However, Sakura wasn't worried he'd slip back into his old self. Sasuke was like this whenever fangirls and those who just wanted something out of him came around, but he'd open back up when it was just him and one of his real friends. "Perhaps I can help you with training. My kunai and shuriken throwing has gotten really good lately," replied Amy, pulling out 2 shuriken and throwing them. When she opened her eyes, she saw Sasuke quaking in his feet. The first shuriken had actually nicked the inside of his thigh. Had it have been a few inches higher and he really would be the last Uchiha. However, the second shuriken had pretty much sealed Amy's fate. Naruto and Hinata were walking along through the village. Naruto only had about 2 more days after today to spend with Hinata before Ero Sennin said he'd be back. The festival was tomorrow and he really wanted to do something else with Hinata before leaving, but the one restaurant where he would have taken her was now closed for remodeling and apparently Jiraiya was going to teach him how to dance, just great. Naruto stopped in his tracks as he felt a familiar key wash over the village before cowering behind Hinata. "Naruto?" asked a confused Hinata. "I'd know that key anywhere," shivered Naruto. Someone pissed off Sakura. Amy looked over to see a pissed off Sakura, who was also missing a sizable portion of her right bang, and a shuriken pinning a chunk of pink hair to a tree. "That little brat. I'm going to K her," raged inner Sakura. "Actually, I've got a better idea," replied Sakura. Immediately, the sweet smile that was trademarked by her master appeared on Sakura's face. Amy's face went blank, something most ninja recognized as the influence of a genjutsu. A few seconds later, Amy dropped to her knees. "Sasuke. Why?" she screamed before losing consciousness. Genjutsu? Asked Sasuke. Shame, and that was one of the weaker ones I had, said Sakura. So what did she see? Asked Sasuke. I don't know. Demonic illusion, hell viewing technique, it's different for each person unless I specifically control it like I did with Ino's. All I know is she just saw the worst thing her brain could imagine, and from the sounds of it, it involved you, replied Sakura, earning a shiver from Sasuke. She checked the time and sighed. I've gotta go meet up with Tsunade Shisho for the rest of the afternoon. Right, guess I'll see you tomorrow then, replied Sasuke. Definitely. I'm looking forward to it, said Sakura as she took off back towards the village. The Festival of the Budding Leaf, a celebration commemorated to the founding of Konoha. This was a time when everyone in Konoha came together to celebrate with music, lights, festivities, and cheers, capping it off with a grand fireworks display at the end of the night. For a certain blonde boy, this was his first real opportunity to experience the joys of a festival. Oh man, this is going to be great, exclaimed Naruto. He was making his way through the village, dressed in the orange and black kimono that he had gotten over a week ago when shopping with Hinata. This was the first festival he could honestly say he was going to be able to enjoy, that is until. Demon. Crap. Why now? Thought Naruto. So much for the festival, or so he thought. Naruto took a quick look around to see where the cries were coming from and surprisingly, no one was looking towards him. He heard a screech and his attention was turned towards a festival stand that sold smoked fish. At that stand were about a dozen people screaming demon towards a certain cat, wearing a red ribbon in her hair, who was apparently holding the fish stand hostage. You know, it's times like this that make me glad I'm no longer a genin and that I don't have to worry about catching that damned cat, said Naruto. A nearby festival patron laughed slightly at Naruto's comment. Naruto figured he must have been a ninja who had a bad experience with Tora at one point in time as he continued on his way towards the Hyuga compound. Orange. I should have known, retorted Neji as Naruto arrived at the compound. Yeah, I make one change to my normal outfit and I'm no longer allowed to wear orange, said Naruto, taking a look over Neji's attire, which consisted of a primarily white kimono with brown trimmings. So do you have a date for the festival? Or did Hiashi-sama ask you to follow me and Hinata around all night? Neji smiled. No, I won't be tailing the two of you tonight, although that doesn't mean I won't be able to see what you're doing, he said, activating his Byakugan for emphasis. So who's the lucky lady? Asked Naruto. That would be me, said a familiar voice. Tenten. Asked a surprised Naruto as Tenten walked up and placed a hand on Neji's arm. She was wearing a crimson kimono with gold wisps working their way throughout the garment. Since when? Since after I had to drag your Crispia back to the hospital. I stopped into Neji's room and he asked me, replied Tenten. Come on Neji, let's go. In a moment, I want to see his reaction, whispered Neji to Tenten. Neji then turned to Naruto. Hinata-sama will be ready in a few minutes. After a few minutes, the doors to Hinata's house opened. Naruto, said a cheerful Hinata. Naruto turned around to see Hinata, only for his eyes to grow wide and brain to practically shut down. Hi wo you am wow. Babbled Naruto, earning a giggle from Tenten and Hinata. Hinata was wearing a light blue kimono with lavender flower petals swirling up the kimono from the base. The obi, sash, that was tied around her waist was a midnight blue ribbon that matched the color of her hair and was tied in a bow in the back with the ends dangling down to about ankle length. As for her hair, Hinata had her hair pinned up in the back in kind of a loose bun with her bangs hanging down to frame her face as normal. Naruto, do you like how I look? Asked Hinata to a still frozen Naruto. It was at this time that Hanabi made her way out and gave Naruto a little nudge, snapping him out of his trance. Amazing, was all he could still manage to get out. This caused Hinata to blush and begin fiddling with her fingers in turn. Naruto immediately went over to Hinata, took her arms and went in for AK. Coughed Hiashi as Naruto was stopped before he could give Hinata AK. Both Naruto and Hinata turned a bit red at that. Sorry, apologized Naruto, rubbing the back of his head. It appears as if you got here safely, so we won't have to worry about a repeat of 5 months ago, will we? Asked Hiashi. No one tried to attack me or even call me demon Although I was almost scared that a mob would come running after me when I did hear someone yell out, "Demon," but that was just Tora hijacking some fish stand, replied Naruto. I don't know, I came straight through the main festival area and no one really seemed to mind. Very well, I have actually noticed that you seem to be more accepted by the village and I don't think you should have any issues tonight. As such, I will entrust Hinata's safety to you for the night. I expect her home unharmed by 11:30 at the latest, said Hiashi. Yes, and thank you Hiashi-sama, bowed Naruto. He and Hinata soon exited the clan compound on their way to enjoy the festival. They had about 4 hours to enjoy the festival itself before the fireworks started and Naruto already had a spot staked out to watch them from. Daddy, said Hanabi, tugging on her father's robes and trying to look as cute and innocent as possible. Hiashi looked down at his youngest daughter. It was very rare that either of his daughters called him daddy. Usually, they referred to him as father. This immediately told him that Hanabi wanted something. I've never been to a festival. Can we go? Please. Hiashi was actually a little surprised. The last time he had taken either of his daughters to a festival was when his wife was still alive and before Hanabi was born. Neither of them had mentioned anything about a festival until just recently. Perhaps that was due to him being extremely strict and they were both afraid that they would be scolded by him for asking to do such a thing. However, he had recently begun to change his whole outlook on his family and open up. Perhaps that's what prompted Hanabi to ask. I wonder if Shota is still selling his batter-fried tempura, thought Hiashi out loud. Hanabi instantly smiled, knowing that her father was now considering going. Hanabi was already dressed in a dark red kimono with gold and silver firework patterns exploding throughout the kimono. As Naruto and Hinata walked through the festival areas, they were already enjoying themselves. This wasn't like their first date where they sat in silence for the first hour. They were already laughing and playing with the big cone of cotton candy that Hinata had. The two would take turns feeding each other while a piece that got stuck on one another's lips or nose would give the other an excuse to give them a slight K. A few patrons noticed the happy couple and it wasn't so much Naruto who caught their attention, but Hinata. Most of these people remembered the shy and timid girl who was always unhappy with her life, but what was walking through the town was one who was genuinely happy and laughing. She was comfortable with herself and she showed it. For Naruto, no one was looking at him as a demon tonight. As a matter of fact, no one could see a hint of demon in the blonde that was walking down the street. There was no way a demon could be smiling and laughing like that. The couple came to a stand that sold festival masks and props and Naruto immediately went for a large white ceremonial wig. Mount Myoboku's holy perverted sage, also known as Ero Sennin. I am the epitome of perverness, the one and only super pervert. I am Jiraiya, said Naruto, imitating Jiraiya's dance and introduction pose, earning multiple laughs from people observing. After mocking his teacher a little more, Naruto handed back the wig and he and Hinata picked out a pair or festival masks. Hinata's was a white tiger with black stripes on it. Naruto had spotted a mask that looked like a fox, but opted against it, not wanting to give the villagers a reason to ruin his night. Next to it was a reddish mask that resembled Gamabunta. He chose that one, and also felt it was more amusing for his date. Moving on, Naruto and Hinata continued down the street, only to be nearly flattened by Sasuke, wearing a solid dark blue kimono, who looked as if he was running for his life, and he was. Behind him was a horde of about half a dozen horny fangirls. Shadow clone jutsu, shouted Naruto, reacting quickly and creating about a dozen clones that were transformed into Sasuke around the original. The clones broke off in various directions, taking with the fangirls following behind, thinking their Sasuke was the real one. It's safe now. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief as he came out from hiding behind one of the festival stands. I swear those fangirls are going to be the death of me, retorted Sasuke. Oh come on, they can't be that bad, said Naruto, receiving a death glare from his teammate. They're evil I tell you. They truly are demon spawns, commented Sasuke. They're the same as those mobs that wanted to kill you on your birthday, only they want to rape me endlessly. Okay, said Naruto. Anyways, shouldn't you be picking Sakura up right now? I was going to, until I was ambushed, said Sasuke as he turned around to head back towards Sakura's home, Naruto and Hinata following. Sasuke knocked on the door of Sakura's house and it was a pink-haired man who answered. Sakura, there's a handsome young man waiting for you. Kazashi called out through the house. She'll be a few minutes, why don't the three of you come inside for a moment? Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata stepped inside the Haruno's residence. It was fairly simple, but it had everything necessary for a comfortable home. As they took a seat, Naruto could feel the tension in the room. It was a tension he was very familiar with, having dealt with Hiashi before. For a few minutes, there was an awkward silence in the house as Kazashi and Sasuke just simply stared at each other. Well, I had to go through this already, I guess it's only fair he has to, thought Naruto. Is something bothering you, Haruno-san? Asked Sasuke. And so it begins, said Kurama. Yep. It'll be funny to see Sasuke sweat a little, thought Naruto. No, not much really. However, I do want to make one thing clear, said Kazashi, sending Sasuke that look, the one only a protective father could give. You see, Sakura is very precious to me and as her father, I only want what's best for her. I want to see her happy and smiling. Do you get where I'm going? I do. You don't have to worry, sir. I won't do anything to harm or upset Sakura. That I promise, replied Sasuke. On the outside, his composure was perfect, but he was sweating heavily on the inside from whatever energy Kazashi was sending towards him. The best way to describe it would be fatherly intent, and it had the same effect as Ki did on Fresh Gen and only on a daughter's new boyfriend. Good, said Kazashi, as he began skillfully fiddling with a knife. Because if I find out that you've upset or disrespected my daughter in any form, I don't give a crap what the council says, you will be the last Uchiha. Am I clear? Why yes, sir, stuttered Sasuke. Kazashi had officially made it onto Sasuke's very short list of people he truly fears. Dad, are you scaring people again? Asked Sakura as she came down the stairs. Sasuke's reaction at that point practically mirrored Naruto's reaction when he first saw Hinata. Sakura saw Naruto, Hinata, and Sasuke in the living room. She waved to the already official couple in the room before turning to Sasuke. Sasuke. Hi sa you, babbled Sasuke, causing Sakura and Hinata to giggle. It was at this time that Sasuke made his way over to Sakura. Sakura had on a white kimono with some blooming cherry tree branches on it while the wind blew some of the blossoms off with it. She had her hair up in a tight bun, as opposed to the loose one Hinata had, with two large hairpins holding it in place. Wow, glad I wasn't like that, commented Naruto. No, Sasuke didn't freeze up for 5 minutes afterwards, said Hinata as Naruto's head dropped in shame. Okay you four, get over here, called out Mebuki, holding a camera in her hand. A few pictures later and the four of them were out the door of the Haruno residence, much to Sasuke's relief. Sasuke cried a few shrieks that sent Sasuke cowering in fear behind Sakura. Before they could get any closer to Sasuke, they were stopped in their tracks by a massive key that was coming from Sakura. I suggest you leave, now, barked Sakura. She would give these fangirls one last chance before things got real ugly. One of the girls made a comment about their hair and how Sasuke could possibly like someone for having short hair. Actually, the funny thing about that whole Sasuke liking long hair rumor, said Naruto, grinning and rubbing the back of his head. I was actually the one to start it. All the fangirls looked over at Sasuke for some form of comfort, knowing that they had been pleasing Naruto Barker instead of Sasuke. It's true, was all he said. The four of them were then able to walk away quietly from a devastated bunch of fangirls. On their way through the festival, the four of them ran into a pair they had never thought possible. Shikamaru. All four of them said simultaneously. Shikamaru simply groaned as a certain Suna blonde standing next to him merely waved at him. Wait, don't tell me the two of you are here on a date. Asked Naruto. Why would I want to go on a date with this troublesome woman, said Shikamaru. What was that, you lazier? Shouted Temari. It's not like you have to be here or anything. I wish, but the Hokage assigned me to act as an escort for you and your brothers while you're still here in Konoha, groaned Shikamaru. And then there was my mother, Sai. Huh, what did your mother do? Asked Hinata. She found out about my assignment and immediately took it that I was going to take Temari on a date to the festival. Such a troublesome woman, complained Shikamaru, irritating Temari more. Like I said, you don't have to escort me, you lazy bum, said Temari. I know, but I don't want to have to deal with my mother, said Shikamaru. It was then that Temari noticed the masks on Naruto and Hinata's heads. Oh come on Shika, let's go find where they're selling those festival masks. Squealed Temari as she dragged a reluctant Shikamaru away. Shika, asked Sakura. Maya, they aren't here on a date, commented Naruto. You know Shikamaru though, it'd be too troublesome for him to admit it, retorted Sasuke. It appears that would be a favorable assumption. Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke turned to see Shino in festival garments as well, with a certain green-haired Kunoichi next to him. Shino's kimono was a simple solid black with silver trimmings, while Fu's was mint green around the shoulders, matching the color of her hair, and transitioning through a rainbow of colors until it was a sort of red-yellow mix at the base. Shino, Fu, wait, are you two here on a date as well? Asked Naruto. If that is what you would call it, I won't deny, said Shino. Fu smiled and rested her head on Shino's shoulder. During her recovery time in the hospital and the move into the Aberrane compound, Fu and Shino got to know each other a lot better, to the point where Shino offered to accompany her to the festival, as he put it. At this time, a firefly landed on the tip of Fu's nose as it lit up, causing everyone, except Shino, to laugh, although Shino was probably laughing on the inside. It was starting to get later into the night and the sound of drums and music was beginning to make its way through the village. This meant that the parade was coming through and the fireworks would follow shortly after. The streets were usually crowded along the parade route, but thankfully for Naruto and Hinata, the parade passed right by Ichiraku Ramen, and Tuki had been kind enough to allow them to watch the parade from the rooftop of the ramen shop. The parade was a spectacle full of floats, music, and dancing. Naruto did remember parades like this from observing them in the past, but nothing beat watching it with Hinata in his arms. As soon as the parade concluded, Naruto and Hinata were off. The conclusion of the parade indicated only about 30 minutes until the fireworks started, and they had to be sure to get their spot, seeing as Naruto was illiterate in a way. Yes, that spot was none other than the Yondaim's head. The fireworks were shot from a training ground to the northeast of the mountain, giving him a nice view of the fireworks. You know, I'm going to miss this place, said Naruto as they sat down upon his father's head. This caused Hinata to sniggle into him a little for comfort. But I bet you're going to have lots of exciting stories to tell when you return, said Hinata. Yeah, I guess you're right. And you'll be the first one to hear those stories, said Naruto, getting a smile out of Hinata. Honestly, I'm really excited about this trip. 3 whole years to get stronger and see the world, but I kind of wish that I would have a chance to see my friends and you during those years. I know, and I don't like it that you have to leave, but I know you have to do so to get stronger, said Hinata. And don't worry, I'm going to get strong as well. I'm not going to let you take on everything alone. Thanks, Haim. I know you'll become stronger and you'll become even prettier than you are now, said Naruto, causing Hinata to blush at the compliment. In return, she moved in to give him the key that her father had denied them back at the compound, and the moment their lips met, fireworks exploded throughout the village. As their key came to an end, Naruto leaned back to rest against the rock as Hinata laid herself down on top of the blonde. 3 years without Naruto, all she wanted to do right now was cuddle closely to him and savor the remaining time they had together. Sasuke and Sakura had found a spot upon a higher branch in a large tree on top of a hill that overlooked the fireworks. The fireworks had already started and the pair was sitting side by side. At some point, Sasuke changed his posture so that he was leaning back against the trunk of the tree instead of just sitting on the branch. Sensing this, Sakura moved as well, realizing that Sasuke simply wanted to change the position they were sitting in and not trying to get away from her. It's now or never, thought Sakura nervously, as she got closer to where Sasuke was. She had to do it now as this was the perfect opportunity. Her heart began beating faster as she inched her way towards her longtime crush. However, before Sakura could make her move, Sasuke made his, pulling her into him, his hands wrapped around her waist, and pressing his lips softly, yet firmly against hers. It was finally happening, something she had been dreaming about since the early days of the academy. Sasuke was actually her. She felt like she was floating off into heaven at that very moment. Their lips slowly parted as Sakura readjusted herself so that she was now laying against Sasuke with her head resting against his sea. Sasuke wrapped his arm around her back and placed it on her waist as she wrapped her fingers around his hand. Sakura was the happiest she had ever been. That K left her fully satisfied, yet at the same time, begging for more. It was official, she and Sasuke were finally a couple. Cha. Take that all you psychotic B. Ik Sasuke. He's mine, all mine. Cheered inner Sakura in celebration. As Sakura rested against him, Sasuke's head began spinning with thoughts. In the past, he had practically isolated himself. He isolated himself out of fear that Itachi would return and take everything he held close to him away. He was afraid that night would repeat itself. He had promised himself that he wouldn't move on until Itachi was yet here he was with Sakura in his arms and he didn't want to let go. It was probably the first time since his mother was still alive that Sasuke actually felt warmth and love. So, Sasuke did the only thing he could do, he tightened his grip. I won't let him get you. I won't let Itachi take you away. That I swear, he thought. Sakura awoke drearily to a tapping on her window. Last night had been, by far, the best night of her life. She and Sasuke had officially become a couple the previous night. Last night had seemed like a dream that she never wanted to wake up from, however, the constant tapping on her window was saying otherwise. She peeled back the curtains to find a cheerful Ino standing on the balcony to her room. Hey Sakura, hurry and get dressed. There's something you don't want to miss, said Ino. Having no idea what Ino was talking about, Sakura simply went along with it and minutes later, she was out. Honestly, she would have liked a bit longer to get ready, but the way Ino was nagging her she really didn't have much time. So what's up? Asked Sakura. Oh, you'll just have to wait and see, teased Ino. The duo ran through Konoha until they came upon a familiar warehouse of sorts. Sakura instantly recognized this place as this was where all the Sasuke fangirls would go after school and their attempts at getting either Sasuke or some possession of Sasuke's. During the academy years, the Sasuke fan club had practically turned this building into a place of worship to Sasuke, complete with a shrine to house all the relics that they had gathered. Why are we here? Asked Sakura. Sure, she and Sasuke might be a couple now, but the last thing she wanted to do was publicly announce it in front of the entire fan club which she had come to despise. Shush, they'll be here any moment, hushed Ino as she and Sakura made their way to the top of the warehouse and looked in through a small window up there. As Sakura looked in through the window, she could obviously see that a large picture was covering the shrine, although she couldn't make out what the poster was. A few minutes passed and the 24 or so remaining members of the Sasuke fan club began to file in for their routine worship. The first thing that both Sakura and Ino saw nearly made them fall through the window in a fit of laughter. As a result of the truth behind the long hair being revealed, all the fangirls had overreacted and shaved their heads so that they were now practically bald. Sakura could barely breathe as her laughter continued. She knew the fangirls were going to react in some way to Naruto telling them that he was actually the one who started the rumor, but she never imagined they would go this far. No. Sasuke, why? Screamed the fangirls. They walked in to see the picture that had been left on their shrine and immediately dropped to their knees. Sakura was confused but Ino couldn't stop laughing. What did you do? Asked Sakura. Ino handed Sakura a picture and now she understood why the fangirls were so devastated. Somehow, Ino had managed to snap a picture of the moment her and Sasuke had their first K. Ino. Sakura growled while cracking a fist. Oh come on Sakura, lighten up, pleaded Ino. Sakura took a deep breath to calm down as she looked at the picture. It was a nice picture and it actually gave her a memento of her first K, although she would never forget the way she felt. She looked over towards Ino who was now shaking before wrapping Sakura up in a hug. You did it. I'm so happy for you. Squealed Ino. Now come on, spill it. How was it? Like Sakura, Naruto was also rudely awakened by a knocking on his door. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning and this was one day where he had been hoping to sleep in a little as he figured he would be putting as much time as possible into training during the next few years. After crawling out of bed, Naruto slipped and stumbled on some trash that he had lying around the floor. Damn, I've got to clean before I leave, he thought while putting on a pair of shorts and opening the door. Standing outside was a familiar face to him. Ko, what are you doing here? asked Naruto to the Hyuga standing outside his door. I'm sorry to disturb you, Naruto, but Hiashi-sama has requested that you stop by the clan compound this afternoon to join him and his family for tea. He also mentioned that you have some artifacts from your trip to Azuchiogakure that he would be most interested in seeing, in particular a certain sword and a scroll that you seem to have some across, said Ko. Okay, I'll come by this afternoon then, said Naruto. Very good, I will let Hiashi-sama know, bowed Ko, who also handed Naruto an envelope. Also, this was taped onto your door. Naruto took the envelope and closed the door as Ko left to inform Hiashi. Great, what does Hiashi want now? Thought Naruto. He turned over the envelope and immediately saw a crude drawing of Jiraiya on the front. And what does Ero Sennin want? Naruto took the letter out of the envelope and began reading. Naruto, I just wanted to let you know that we will be leaving tomorrow after lunch. I have already made arrangements with Suin to take care of your apartment, although I highly recommend cleaning it. For our trip, make sure you have everything that you will need for training. Below, I have made a list of what you should bring for training. 3 sets of shinobi clothes. Don't worry, I know a nice seal that can wash them. Your standard ninja gear, kunai, shuriken, sealing scrolls, etc. That Uzumaki sealing book and any other seals you may have from Azuchiogakure. Your sword and special knives. Whatever basic necessities you may need. I also want you to go to the Konoha Jutsu library and get a few jutsu. There's a note in here that will allow you to select 2 wind jutsu up to B rank. I also want you to grab a simple C rank fire jutsu and a simple C rank water jutsu. I feel that fire will be easy to learn because of the furball in your stomach, and if I remember, the Uzumakis were quite proficient with water jutsu. This is all I'm going to give you for ninjutsu. If there are any other ninjutsu you wish to learn, they will either have to be Uzumaki clan jutsu if there are any more in those scrolls of yours, or you're going to have to make them yourself. Be ready, because when we leave, your training truly begins. Jiraiya. Kakashi was leaning against a tree, leisurely reading his Ika Ika book until he felt a presence approach him. He looked up to see Guy standing there, giving one of his signature smiles and dragging a pouting and cross-armed Zabuza behind him. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.